This is for anal. I've been working on it for a while. It's a very simple concept in many ways. Very simple concept. Teach your child the alphabet and gay sex is a very simple concept. David Walliams gave me a quote which is so nice of you. You didn't have to do that. So lovely of David Walliams. And we could play this together, boys and girls. Shout out, what do we think B is for, boys and girls? Balls. Well done, it is balls. It gets trickier. What do we think C's for? CBT, lovely thought. No, it's not, but there's no wrong answers here. Anyone else?
Cock cage.
Cock cage? It's not cock cage, but it could be a cock cage. Yeah, no, I'll give it to you. It's cupping another bloke's balls. That's what it is. What do we think D's for, boys and girls? Dark room. There's some queers in. There we go. Some of you might need to Google that is later. Some confused straight people looking at me there. What's a dark room? Just go to it. There's a place called Bolts that I'd recommend. Anyway, about 4 years ago, a friend of mine, she doesn't live in Birmingham, she said, I've got this new boyfriend, and I'd love you to meet him. It's called Greg. And I said, they were coming to Birmingham. I said, why don't you pop round for drinks and nibbles? Or as Boris calls it, national lockdown. Bit of fun there, bit of old school fun there. And they came round, and I've got to be diplomatic about what I say about Greg, because they're still together. I don't like him. If he was a noise, he'd be, just a grey-suited alpha bellend, and he came into my house, and the first thing you see when you come into my house is a painting of a pride flag, and he immediately, literally just met him, he went off on one, he was like, oh God, this they-them nonsense, for God's sake. There's a bloke at work that wants to be called they-them. It's he or she, isn't it? I was like, we've been very comfortably calling a grown man Pitbull for the last 20 years. We can deal with it of they and them. There's a man called The Edge, and we've all been fine with that. I'd like to meet The Edge and wank him off just at the point of completion. On Instagram, you'll know I love my gardening. I'm always posting about it. And it's always sort of needlessly offensive posts, just this sort of thing. I just call them all slags, big-titted slags. This is a squash, looks like an upside-down chode with a baggy foreskin. I know what that looks like because I've met your dad. Just needlessly offensive posts. And Greg's wandering around my house, and he's an estate agent, Greg, and he was treating the whole thing like it was a valuation, going into all the rooms, going, And he went into the kitchen, which looked like this at the time. Perfectly nice, usable kitchen. There were issues with it. It had plaster that was falling away a bit. There was an outhouse at the back with an asbestos roof, but perfectly nice, usable kitchen. And he went into that room, and he went, how much you pay for this place? And I told him, and he went, what, for this? And I said, yeah. And he went, no. You've overpaid there. 20, 30 grand too much, I'd say. And I was so annoyed because he's absolutely right. I'm terrible at negotiating, and I checked with a friend of mine who's an estate agent as well after he'd left, and she said, yeah, he's probably right, 20, 30 grand too much, but it doesn't matter in the long run, does it? You love the house, you don't want to leave, it doesn't matter. I was like, it does matter, because Greg cannot win. So I've spent the last 4 years trying to get my house price up simply to fuck off Greg. Yes, lockdown got in the way of doing stand-up. I was meant to do this tour a lot sooner. And I had my jab. This is me having my jab. And the nurse said, do take a photo and put it on Instagram. We're trying to promote the vaccine. She hadn't considered I might put a caption with it. I just wanted a Tuesday afternoon strippogram, and now I'm hooked on meth. And then underneath, this post was sponsored by Microsoft ShoeZone and Screwfix. All the anti-vaxxers are out in force. Someone called me a foot soldier of tyranny. I love that. That's going on the posters next year. Someone else said, idiot, I bet he was paid thousands for this and didn't even take the vaccine. You got me there. ShoeZone did pay me thousands. Fair play. I get it. It was scary to have the vaccine. A friend of mine was absolutely terrified. Another thing I did, which I really recommend, I did loads of this, and it's really good for anyone's mental health, and it's really simple. All you do is troll Alan Sugar. It's so simple. Alan Sugar, I'm sure you know who he is, a billionaire. He's, you what? Sorry, Lord Alan Sugar. That's the lawyers over there. It's Lord, actually, I think you'll find. Yes, Lord Wanker Alan Sugar. He's a billionaire, he's hosted The Apprentice, and at the start of lockdown, people were losing their jobs, their lives, it was an awful time. He posted this to Twitter. This is him next to his private jet during a global pandemic. Collected the new plane today, flew it down from Knoxville to Pompano Beach. I thought, you're not reading the room here, Alan. So I replied to this tweet and I said, drove my Ford Fiesta home base today, but you don't see me tweeting about it. Either way, I'm horny, how about you? This started an absolute flirt fest with Alan Sugar, because he replied to this. He said, but you did tweet it, you double-barrel prick. He thinks I'm a princess. That opened the floodgates to me flirting with him every morning in lockdown, sending this sort of thing. Good morning, my little Lord Sugar Puff. I mean, I did so many. I sort of lost my mind, really, but I did it because I think he's a twat. I think he's lost it. I think he's a bellend, and I think he'll die before me, but if he doesn't, I don't want him to win. And I thought about this. I was like, how do I win against Alan Sugar in death? And I solved this problem. And what I've done is I've rewritten my will. This is my actual will. This is page 2. If you look at section 6, Alan Sugar gets the Ford Fiesta. I've actually come up with a game show, which I think is quite good, but I haven't worked out the numbers yet. It doesn't really matter. Let's say it's a 100 grand jackpot, 10 contestants, 7 days to get a positive COVID test. I think you'd watch it. People scrambling around licking doorknobs in hospitals, you'd watch it. We'd call it, who do you PCR? Yes. I'm actually very anti-BBC these days as well, actually. I'm suing the BBC after what they did to me at Strictly. Disgusting behaviour. Disgusting. It's a very pleasing thud, that, isn't it? Very right-wing, very right-wing. I've lost fans because I'm so right-wing, because Boris Johnson, who's my ride or die, when he was Prime Minister, for the first time, just in case, they can cut it if it doesn't happen, when he was Prime Minister, I like to be supportive of him, you know. I like to do a supportive tweet to him when he did Prime Minister's Questions, this sort of thing. Don't let them get to you, babe, they're just jealous. That must have been tough, babe, proud of you. Don't rise to it, babe, I'm with Nadine, we're on your side, no matter what. People would reply to these tweets, they'd say things like this. Remind me never to book a ticket to see you. Oh dear, was a fan, bye. Seriously, you're losing fans. Time to confirm if it's a joke. Confirm if it's a joke! Exactly the sort of person you want in a comedy audience. Before we get on with the show, I should just tell you a couple of things that have changed about me, because you might not know. First thing is, I'm very straight now. You should know that about me. I'm very straight. Thank you for laughing. That's nice of you. No, I'm not gay. I thought I was gay once. It was just trapped wind. I'm bisexual, and yes, I gotta tell you, I love fucking pussy. Love licking a tit. Can't get enough. Tongue punching a minge. I love it. People don't believe this about me, they don't believe it. I've got this friend who's a top shagger of women, and he said to me once, he said, how many times do you think you could fuck in a night before you get tired? And I was like, less than one. One thrust and mummy's ready for bed, normally. He reckons he gets with a lot of women because he's got good upper body strength, which I think is quite a cynical view of women. But I said to him, how'd you get the upper body strength? He goes climbing. Now, I'll never go climbing. I'm terrified of heights. But I said to him, what's the scariest thing that's happened to you while you've been climbing? And he said he was on a cliff face, and he was convinced he was in an avalanche. All this stuff came over the top of the cliff, went in his eyes, blinded him, went in his mouth, and he thought, I'm going to die here. And he thought, the only thing I can do is just pull and hope for the best. And he just pulled and pulled and pulled, got himself over the top of the cliff, wiped his eyes, looked up, and there was a semicircle of people, and in the middle, a child holding an urn. And this little boy just went, Grandma? First time she's been eaten out in 30 years. Is that too much for it? Fuck off. I'm sorry, there's a lot of sewing bee fans in. I can sense it, I get it. As a result of these posts, I was asked to do an interview with Gardener's World magazine. The most gentle Middle England publication you could ever hope to find. And I did this lovely interview with them, and they said afterwards, they said, oh, we need a high-resolution picture of you in the garden for the magazine. And I said, well, I don't have one. And they said, can you get one? I was like, it's locked down, I live on my own. But I got this camera, and I set it up on a little timer, and I got this picture, which I think is quite sweet, really. It's quite, I know, bless, I know, it's lovely. And they said, oh, it's lovely. Who took the photo? For a laugh, I said it was Lisa Scott-Lee from Steps. I don't know why I chose Lisa Scott-Lee. I'm sat on some steps, maybe it was subconscious, I don't know. Magazine comes out, they printed her in the magazine. She lives in Dubai. And now, whenever she posts to Instagram, this is her saying Steps got to #1 in the charts. She credited me as the photographer. But Ever so busy. Ever so busy.